So today I'm going to talk about 3 of our most popular varieties. Of course, there's a lot of popular varieties, but these happen to be related to each other. Julie is the first variety to come on the scene in the Caribbean in the late 1700s. This is Carrie, which is the granddaughter of Julie, and then Graham, which is a seedling of Julie. And they all are delicious fruit. We don't let any of them, well, we try not to let any of them ripen on the tree. Of course, always there's something that's going to ripen on the tree, but they're much better if you pick them mature but green. And so this one I just picked this morning. This is Julie, and I was just twisting it and it came off. That's one way to pick Julie, when you twist it. The ones that are out of reach, of course, I pick another way. This was another one I picked this morning, and there's a nice dry stem. It is sort of, you can tell it was hollow. And I have never met a fruit that I've picked with a hollow dry stem that hasn't been ready to pick. That's just a good indication. Not all fruit develop the hollow dry stem, but if you see a hollow dry stem on a fruit you've picked, you've done it right. One thing I'll mention with Julie is a lot of people who've grown up with a Julie tree in their yard wait for the fruit to drop from the tree and eat it the same day. They eat it the same day because if you eat it the next day, it develops off flavors. A really strong flavor. So of course, with Carrie, we have a whole video on how to pick Carrie because it's sort of a tricky one. But you see these little spots here, those are actually pores of the skin that have gotten more noticeable because of sap leaking out of them. They're called lenticels, and that's a good indication this fruit was ready to pick. There's other signs too, so if you have a Carrie tree, or even if you're just really interested in how to pick Carrie, watch the Carrie picking video. It's a lot of information there. And then the last one is Graham. And Graham is one that we look for a change of color. And then, of course, the same thing with the pores. You can see that there's been sap, or these little pores are much more noticeable on the top. Usually it's the top is where you see those, the first indication of that particular thing. But also in here, these are all pores that have had sap leaking out of them. So this fruit was ready to pick. So anyway, that's the quick, when is it time to pick the fruit? And so I ran into the instance 3 weeks ago where I had some small Julie fruit hanging on a small Julie tree that were actually on the ground. I knew they were not going to develop fully. There was no way to really prop them up successfully, so I picked them. And this is a Julie prune or raisin. It is dehydrated, and one thing about Julie is if you wait for the fruit to mature on the tree, you have to eat it right away. I had 3 of these fruit, and after a week I cut into the first fruit. It was sour. So there was just one little slice in it. I set it out on the kitchen counter for another week or so, and then I cut into the fruit again, cut off the edges that were exposed, make a nice fresh cut, and it was really tasty. And I heard about this. I heard that if you pick an immature Julie, that it doesn't develop the off flavors. And this one was part of that trio that I picked 3 weeks ago. And yes, it doesn't look like it's ready to be eaten. It looks very strange for Julie. But it is very tasty. It has the Julie flavor and it doesn't have any off flavors. So anyway, if you have a really immature Julie, just wait for a while and it will develop sweetness after the sour time. So this, as I said, was 3 weeks ago. I think it was probably better at 2 weeks after picking, but it's still very tasty. So Carrie is, of course, one of our most popular eaten fresh mangoes. It's also very good for ice cream. This is not quite ripe, but you get to choose when you eat your fruit. And some people, most people like Carrie perfectly ripe, but other people prefer it when it's like before it's ripe, a day or two before it's ripe. And when you eat it when it's not quite ripe, there's a slight tartness to it. So if you like a little tartness with your sweet, try Carrie a little bit early. So this is our green Graham, and then these are a little more ripe. This one looks like the ripest and next ripest. And this is the Graham tree. And as you can sort of guess, it's a very productive tree, fairly small. And I actually was going to take this tree out. And why, you might ask. It was a flavor I wasn't loving. I would wait for the fruit to get ripe, and sometimes a little bit overripe. And if I were mixing it in a batch of cut up mangoes for mango bread, it would make the whole batch taste like not good. And so I just figured Graham is just not that great of a mango. And then a few years ago, one of our helpers at the farm said, try eating it before it's ripe. And when you eat Graham like 2 or 3 days before it's ripe, it's still sweet, it's firm, and it doesn't have the off flavors that a ripe Graham has. There's a quick look at when we pick the Julie, Carrie, and Graham mango. If you've tried Julie, Carrie, and Graham and haven't loved any one of those, try it at a different level of ripeness. You know, we know when we like to pick the fruit, and it's up to you to decide at what level of ripeness you like to eat the fruit. So if you tried it once and you didn't like it, try it at a different level of ripeness.